How much money have you spent each year on weed control? Money for herbicides, money for tools, and the time spent hunched over, squatting to pull up each plant one by one, only to return the next week and find the weeds growing back exactly as before. Today, I will reveal a truth that shocked even me. The global agrochemical industry makes over $50 billion every year just from weed control. Behind this massive number lies a secret they absolutely never want you to know. Meanwhile, thousands of kilometers away, there are farmers in eco-villages in Europe whose vegetable gardens have almost not a single weed, without using herbicides, without special tools, and they even save the time of bending down to pull weeds. What exactly do they know that we don't? You definitely have to watch until the end of this video, because I will share an incredibly simple ultimate method at the end. It is so cheap that it's almost free, so easy that anyone can do it, but the effectiveness is truly astonishing. Let's first talk about something that frustrates a lot of people. Have you ever been in this situation? Starting a new season, you clear the soil completely and sow seeds with great excitement. The result is that 2 weeks later, weeds sprout up alongside the vegetables, growing even more vigorously than the veggies. You go weed them, clear out one batch, and the next batch grows back. You buy herbicides to spray. It stays clean for a while, but the soil begins to harden. The vegetables grow up looking stunted. It's not normal, and you start wondering, do I just not have a green thumb, or is my soil too poor? Let me tell you, this is not your fault. This is an incredibly sophisticated commercial trap. The herbicide formulas that chemical companies sell you have been researched over and over again, not to make weeds disappear forever, but to make them grow back after a certain period, forcing you to open your wallet and buy more next time. Furthermore, the chemical components in many herbicides destroy the soil's microbial ecosystem. The soil's ability to self-heal becomes increasingly poor. The soil becomes more hardened and compacted, and ironically, that poor soil environment creates ideal living conditions for the most stubborn weeds. Then you have to go buy stronger herbicides. That cycle is exactly their business model. The very moment you use a hoe to turn up the deep layer of soil, you are actually doing the bidding of weed seeds. This is the biggest lie of the entire weed control industry, and also the most important sentence you need to remember today. Deep tilling is awakening the weed army. Scientific research has proven this for a long time. 1 square meter of soil can store tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of weed seeds. These seeds have a specific characteristic. They need exposure to the red light spectrum in sunlight to be triggered to germinate. When seeds are buried deeper than 2 centimeters in the soil without the stimulation of red light, they can lie dormant for 10 years, 20 years, or even longer. But when you use a hoe to turn the soil, bringing the deep layer to the surface, these seeds that have been sleeping for decades are exposed to sunlight for just a few seconds, receive the red light, and instantly awaken. Do you understand now? The harder you hoe the soil, the more weeds grow. It's not because your soil is bad, but because every time you hoe, you are single-handedly unlocking a new army of weeds. Once you change this mindset, your understanding of weed control will completely change. Truly effective weed control is not waiting for them to grow and then rushing in to eradicate them, but destroying them before they even have a chance to germinate. Next, I will share with you 3 specific steps. This is a method widely applied by eco-farm owners in Europe and top organic farms around the world. The first method is called creating a stale seedbed to lure weeds. The goal is to destroy the first batch of weed seeds that have germinated. The layer of seeds deep below that hasn't been tilled up will continue to lie dormant. After luring this batch, you then sow your vegetables. At this point, the seed bank on the surface has been largely cleared out, and the number of weeds will noticeably decrease. The second method takes advantage of a brutal chemical war in the plant world. In nature, plants do not live peacefully with each other at all. The roots of some plant species will continuously secrete chemicals into the soil. Around the edges of your vegetable garden, or tucked into the spaces between the vegetable beds, you should plant marigolds. They will not compete for nutrients with your vegetables. On the contrary, they act as invisible chemical barriers, silently inhibiting the germination process of surrounding weed seeds. This is an automated system that runs without you having to do anything extra. The third method goes back to the red light principle we just talked about. The goal is to completely deprive the deep layer weed seeds of the opportunity to be exposed to red light. After planting your vegetables, no matter what happens, resolutely do not disturb the surface soil. Many vegetable growers have a habit of grabbing a hoe to loosen the soil whenever they see the surface crust over, fearing the soil isn't breathable. Every time you do that, you drag up a bunch of deep layer weed seeds, starting up a new weed army again. The correct approach is to keep the soil surface undisturbed. Use a thick layer of organic mulch to replace tilling. Use straw, sawdust, or well-rotted compost to spread a thick layer of 5 to 8 cm directly onto the ground. This mulch does two things. First, it physically blocks red light from reaching the soil below. Without light stimulation, weed seeds cannot germinate. Second, the mulch itself, as it decomposes, will release organic acids, further inhibiting weed growth. A 5-year study at organic vegetable farms in Germany found that fields consistently using a thick layer of mulch saw weed pressure drop to an almost negligible level by the third year. The seed bank in the soil depletes year by year, while no new seeds are activated. All right, now I will fulfill the promise I made at the beginning of the video. Before talking about this method, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever wondered why modern agriculture is increasingly dependent on chemicals, yet the weed problem is becoming harder to solve? The stronger the herbicides, the faster weeds evolve resistance. Now I will tell you that ultimate method. It is called biofumigation. This is not a word-of-mouth folk trick. This is actual technology that has been documented in international agricultural science journals and applied on a large scale by organic farms in agricultural powerhouses like Australia, the UK, and the Netherlands. The method is incredibly simple, so simple that you might find it hard to believe after hearing it. Before sowing your vegetable seeds, spend a few cents to buy a handful of the cheapest mustard green, bitter green, or radish seeds. The ones sold at the market or agricultural supply stores are all fine. Scatter them evenly over the plot of land where you plan to plant vegetables and wait for them to germinate and grow to about 20 centimeters. Before they flower, take a hoe, chop them up, and turn that patch of greens over, burying them straight into the soil. Then water it once, cover it with a thin layer of soil, or cover it with a plastic tarp to let it compost intensely for about 5 to 7 days. That's it. During these few days, something absolutely magical will happen inside the soil. Mustard greens and radishes both belong to the cruciferous family. Their leaves and stems contain a large amount of compounds called glucosinolates. This substance is very stable when the plant is alive, but when the plant tissue is destroyed, turned over by a hoe, chopped up, and begins to decompose, glucosinolates will react with an enzyme in the plant cells, breaking down and producing a volatile gas called isothiocyanate. When trapped in a sealed soil environment, this gas is highly toxic to weed seeds. It destroys the cell membrane structure of the seeds and interferes with the germination enzyme system, causing the vast majority of weed seeds waiting in the surface soil layer to die directly and permanently, never to germinate again. Field trial data shows that plots treated with the biofumigation method using cruciferous greens have an average reduction in weed emergence of 60% to 75%. When modern people face weeds, their first reflex is always to pull them, spray them to death, or dig them up. This type of thinking is called reactive coping. However, for those who truly understand gardening, the questions they ponder are, how large is the weed seed bank in this plot of land? And what are the light activation conditions? What kind of plants can help me create a chemical barrier? How can I clear the battlefield before I start planting? These are two completely different levels of thinking. One is a reactive response, while the other is proactive system design. When a true ecological gardener squats by the edge of their garden, they think about how to design this plot so that over the next 3 years, the work becomes easier, the yield gets higher, and the weeds become fewer. All right, now I will quickly summarize the core takeaways of today. First, stop deep tilling. Deep tilling only brings dormant weed seeds to the surface and activates them. The more you till, the more weeds will grow. Second, use the stale seedbed technique. 2 weeks before planting vegetables, water the soil to coax surface weed seeds into germinating. Wait for the weed seedlings to emerge, then use a hoe to very shallowly cultivate the surface to destroy this batch before sowing your seeds. Third, plant marigolds at the edges of the garden and between the vegetable beds. Their roots will secrete chemicals, creating an invisible barrier that suppresses weeds. Fourth, once the vegetables are planted, absolutely do not cultivate the topsoil anymore. Use a thick layer of straw or sawdust as mulch to cut off any chance of the deep weed seeds being exposed to red light. Fifth, which is also the ultimate method, before planting vegetables, scatter a handful of mustard green or radish seeds. Wait until the plants grow 20 centimeters tall, then chop them up, bury them in the soil, water them, and cover with plastic sheeting for 5 to 7 days. Use this biofumigation method to directly destroy the majority of weed seeds in the soil. It only costs a few cents, but the weed suppression efficiency reaches 60–70%. Do one thing today. Go buy a packet of mustard seeds. They are very cheap and available at the market or online. The next time you prepare your soil for planting vegetables, try this method right away and come back here to let me know the results. If your perception of weed control has been turned upside down today, leave a comment letting me know which ultimate trick you plan to try first. Making a stale seed bed to lure weeds, or scattering mustard seeds for biofumigation. Your comment could very well help others who are having the exact same headache over weeds as you are. Growing vegetables is the way for our generation to reconnect with the land. Let's spread this truly useful knowledge together. If this story has changed the way you view the weeds in your garden, please subscribe and like our channel. We are working with you to unearth the historical secrets and natural knowledge that the modern world has sometimes unintentionally buried. Let's plant a sustainable green future together. The next treasure trove of knowledge will soon be open for you.